teacups, what's brewing? Welcome back to the channel. If you're wondering what's brewing, apparently the answer is a 40-day water fast. Hello Chantal, diet cycles, darlings, it's been a while. Really, I should have seen this coming with everything, like the talk was Weight Watchers, and I was expecting there to be another stage of like failure at that before we jumped straight into this. But no, she decided to save herself the money and skip it. Now, somewhat hilariously, she does start this video with a precursor. What are those called? Like a title card, whatever you want to call them. But on the screen saying, don't do this without your doctor's support. Yeah, which you would infer to mean she has gone to see a doctor, but friends, no, that is not the case. Because apparently her experience of doing a 5-day water fast before this, bear in mind that was a solid, 4 or 5 years ago that she did that. It's been quite a while, and by her own admission, she did fail at it because she intended to do it for longer, and then day 6 was like, nah man, I'm done. Now don't get me wrong, if she did in fact complete the water fast, then 5 days is impressive. But it does not prepare her for 40 days, and it also does not give her the expertise to be able to say when it's getting dangerous for her to do so. Any doctor in their right mind would not have given her permission to start this. And one also presumes that she's therefore stopped taking Sala's medicine, because apparently that medicine can really tear up your stomach and digestive system and needs to be taken with food. So has she stopped taking those for her back pain? Who knows? Now, she does start this video quite quiet and, to my mind, quite sheepish, and that might just be coloured by what she said later, but my immediate instinct, before obviously I'd read the title at this point, I knew what was coming, but before she'd said anything, my immediate instinct was she has binged, and she has binged hard. Because one of the things when it comes to Foodie and her diet cycles is that I realise nobody out there has got any sympathy for her. But the diet cycle section of this whole thing is the thing I've always been the most sympathetic about, because it's something I can identify most closely with. So the psychology of it, I don't just understand, I've lived. Yeah. So when she's out here and she's talking to us and she's using words like, today I have hope, and things like that, however ridiculous this idea may seem, I know the feeling of bouncing from one extreme to the other, because she's gone, by her own admission, overeaten terribly. And she says overeaten because we don't know a binge. How dare we pretend to know what binging is for her? But I'm going to use the word binge. She's had a hard binge the night before, feels physically terrible and emotionally defeated, and this is the version of her we get for that. And even now, even with it being Foodie, this is a version of her I have the most sympathy with, because it's a rough deal and it's hard to do. But she does later admit, as I say, that she overate, and so this all made a lot of sense to me in her demeanor. She claims that the fact that she did a 5-day water fast before. Sorry, I'm trying to think how to phrase this. Her failure at the water fast last time, or how she feels about it, whether it's a success or a failure. She successfully fasted for 5 days. Is that a success if she intended to fast for longer? I don't know, 5 days is a lot, I'll give it to her, whatever. But she says she went back to eating crap immediately, so she didn't refeed herself properly, and so all of that indicates to her that she just didn't do it for long enough, and that's why she didn't see the benefits. And I was like, that's what that indicates to you? That is not what I'm reading from that. I'm reading from that fasting with anybody is incredibly hard. It's not an easy thing to do. And people with food disorders, the way Foodie absolutely has, it just triggers the worst behaviors and the worst responses in them. We have seen what Foodie gets like when food is denied to her, either voluntarily or not. And she just runs into a tailspin. What going back to eating on the 6th day tells me is that this is not a good path for you and you need food. Now, Foodie does try to sell this to her. She says that, fasting is important in Islam, and it definitely is. There's obviously the compulsory fasting that you do at Ramadan. There's also some times in the year when you can voluntarily fast, but it's not technically speaking a requirement. And for women, although this wouldn't apply to Foodie because she doesn't have that physical ability anymore, but for women, they sometimes make up fasting days. So in Ramadan, if you have your period, you can't fast. And so women that I've known have made up those days later, because occasionally I'll offer something to someone and they'll say, oh no, I'm fasting today. But Foodie's motivations are not spiritual health here. She's talking very much about the weight loss. She says it's not for weight loss, but the majority of the things she talks about are the health benefits that would be tied to her losing weight and the fact that she wants to wear smaller clothes. Now, neither of these are bad aims or aims that are hard to understand, but this is a terrible path to try and get there. But while we're speaking about spiritual health, she claims she's going to do 40 days fasting, but Eid al... is it Adha? Am I getting that name right? Apologies. Eid al-Adha, I think is what it's called. That's coming up at the end of June. End of June, beginning of July. It's 4 or 5 days, and you don't know exactly when it's going to start till you see the moon, but that's happening end of June-ish, which is right in the middle of her supposed fasting period, and it's actually forbidden to fast during the Eids. So I'm not sure what she's planning right there. Not that she's ever going to get to 40 days, but the max she'll get to here is going to be about 10 from the looks of it. And why has she chosen 40 days? What is the motivation behind that? Has she just read a story of someone who did it? That's usually the case. She's like, oh, they did it, I'll do it. Never mind that they're obviously an exceptional person. I can do that despite all the problems I have with food. Why not start with a 3-day fast or a 5-day fast? I'm not sure. I don't know if she just no, balls to the wall, I'm not doing anything. But if you can't make it through 3 days, then that's an indicator you probably shouldn't try 40. She's trying to explain zombie cells, and oh my God, do you hear yourself when you talk? The thing is, she doesn't even the kind of pseudoscience that's all over the web for all the health influencers that are trying to sell you a supplement or a clinic visit or a one-to-one session or a podcast you want to sign up for, or their socials or whatever it is. She doesn't even really read through that, so she doesn't even have the kind of gussied up information that they're presenting. I did a very quick Google. I am not an expert here, but it seems like the information about zombie cells is related really to anti-aging rather than weight loss. And it is connected in some ways to fasting, but it's still very much in its infancy in terms of the scientific, I'm trying to say the scientific conclusions, which isn't quite the word that I'm looking for here. But anyway, it's still very, very early into scientific discovery and has only actually been tested on mice. Its impact on humans is pretty much unknown at this point. And something else that's pretty much unknown in terms of long-term fasting in humans rather than mice is that they don't know at what point the fasting becomes detrimental. And given that Foodie is not working with a doctor and has a number of health concerns, including a load that she didn't have last time she tried this, I would be very, very cautious about buying into whatever these people are selling with their research that's only been tested on mice. But Foodie has always believed that she just needs to detox a little bit more. The idea of detoxing in general just isn't worthwhile in my mind, because your body detoxes you. It has organs for that. Now, yes, Foodie has abused her organs somewhat, but your body detoxes itself. And all the detoxes that you hear about do is, if you've been treating your body like crap for a while, it gives you a little bit of a break from the crap. But without the detoxing stuff, it would also have the same benefit. So if Foodie just eats a healthy diet, which has always been the problem, she will see the benefit. But no, Foodie wants the shortcut. Foodie wants to cut the corner. She wants the easy way that people have been keeping secret from her. which makes her the perfect target for this bullshit pseudoscience you see within the health industry everywhere. And I say the health industry specifically as in all these people trying to shill you things, the commerce of health, rather than sort of the educational field of it. You know, it's always been, sorry, slight side note, but it's always been a little bit of a shock to me that Foodie has never been in a cult. And I realize that sounds harsh, but go with me here. When we look at this thinking and we look at how willing she is to buy into stuff, she is the perfect mark for a cult of some kind. Because all she really wants is to be told what to do to achieve whatever the perfection is, and to not have to bother with it in her own brain mentally. And a cult is a perfect vehicle for that, because someone somewhat authoritarian will tell her things that sound kind of cool that she can regurgitate to people. And most importantly, she'll be in the club. She'll be part of this group of people who know the secret of eternal life or whatever the hell it is. And so she can feel that little bit more smug that, no, she knows the real information and you're just not allowed to be in on it. Now, her one protection against this is that once the honeymoon period is over, she just wouldn't do well with being told what to do. Like, they could indoctrinate her, but they'd have to work hard to get her in there quickly. Because the moment she got a little bit uncomfortable, that would be another story. But the idea that people have always been keeping a secret from her, and that's why she's failed all these times, has been a strong thread of conversation throughout the years, underlying all the things she does. And you see it the most when you bring up these new, like when she had Teamy, whenever she's had any of these diets. Remember high vibrational foods? This very much has a connection with the high vibrational food stage, where she was explaining to us why this crate of raw mangoes over here was going to be her salvation. And then she woke up the next day, couldn't face it, and we saw her eating a big plate of eggs and bacon. So she doesn't have doctor clearance, but she knows better. So that's gonna be fine. She has researched how she might feel medically, and that will be a signal that she needs to stop. Chances that she will feel that signal some point in the next 24 hours, everyone raise your hands. And then we get into the cause of this, really. And again, the cause of it, I understand. I understand the panic, and we're going to talk a little bit about the panic soon. She did a weigh-in. She gained 2.4 kilograms, which is just over 5 pounds. She is prone to quite large fluctuations because she starts at a large weight, so it can fluctuate a bit more. But given that she's admitted to binging, it's not a surprise that she would see a 5 pound difference. How much of it is real, how much of it is not, we don't know. We don't know how frequently these binges have been happening. But yeah, enough to shock her, certainly. And she also talks a little bit about how it's really hard to find plus size clothing in the Middle East, because things tend to go up to like a 1X or a 2X, but obviously Foodie needs bigger than that. And she's at the point where she needs custom-made abayas, which is a recommendation I made for her a while ago. Like, it's a bitter pill to swallow to say you need it, but at this point, like, just so you don't have the fear every day, just so you don't have that depression of I have nothing to wear, just go out and get yourself a few things. That way you don't have to feel the despair every time you open up your wardrobe. Just go out and do it, and just, even if, like, when this fails and you have to look at something more realistic, even if it takes longer than you think, even if you do it slower than you want, having something that fits you now will make a massive difference mentally than if you're still struggling with the stuff that doesn't fit you. And that's true, anyone at any size, like, have some clothes that fit even if it hurts to get them. Of course, she could also order some clothes from home. Now, I know she is quite a difficult fit, but even she has some stores that she knows, okay, this isn't too bad. Now, with her gaining weight, that might be harder, and she might have to use a shipping service to Kuwait if they don't have sort of company internal global shipping. And that can be quite expensive, but it would be an option. She has options. A lot of the places here will get stuff from Dubai, and there's definitely plus size stuff available in Dubai, and that's a much easier option if you're getting it from abroad than it is getting it from like the Western countries. So she talks about how she wants to correct a number of issues. She wants to eradicate her addiction to food. And I just think that her response to food, the things that cause her to eat the way she eats, they're psychological. Like, you have to deal with the why of eating before you can deal with what you're eating, because nothing will be sustainable until you start to address that. And this is, as we've always said here, it's a physical response to a psychological issue. And that's why it's not working as a solution, because you're trying to fix the wrong thing. Now, does that mean you can't try to change your habits while dealing with that? No. But if you don't understand the why, it's going to be very hard to maintain. And that's something we've seen with her. But again, if you can't handle reducing food, then how do you expect to handle something as extreme as a 40-day water fast? Now, the one argument I would say here, she talks about how lasagna in moderation and cheesecake in moderation is ridiculous, how it won't work. Different people respond differently to the idea of moderation. You know, Anne Boleyn being a queen of moderation. I am not a queen of moderation. I find it much, much easier to abstain from something than I do to moderate it, because I don't have a very good sense of control in that regard. And I feel like Foodie is the same. She goes better without than she does with, you know, because controlling portions is always hard for her. But that doesn't mean throw the baby out with the bathwater and just don't eat anything. You know, and if Salah is there and his food is there, which I know some people are talking about how he doesn't really live there, blah, blah, blah. But let's say for the moment of the argument, it is the way she says it and he does live there, then his food is going to be available, which means she is going to have to resist food that's already there. Whereas if she were just eating and took away the stuff that she shouldn't be eating, she wouldn't have any better options. She gets nearer the end of the video, she mentioned she's not hungry at all. That doesn't actually surprise me. She is smack in the middle of the honeymoon period, even if she's not massively hopeful. She is smack in the middle of the honeymoon period, and she's post-binge. And you feel like crap after you've had a binge. You know, like your body feels bad. You know when you've had a few days out, you've partied a bit hard, and you're like, oh God, and you just don't feel good? That's where she is right now. So anything is going to seem easy right now, but in a few hours, it's not going to seem that way. And what kills me here is her calorie needs are already quite high because she's a heavier person, and your calorie needs go up with the weight of your body. Or your calorie needs, what she could eat and still lose weight is the point I'm making there. So she could eat a 2,000 calorie a day diet and she could still lose weight on it. She could absolutely still do that. And that seems like it would be so much easier. But I think the thing she's trying to cut off at the knees here, and this is why I kind of understand what she's doing, is she doesn't want to make those choices. Resisting it is harder than not having it. And that's what I mean when I explained that just now. So if she says, okay, no food, there's no justification she can do in her head to make that food. I say there's no justification. I'm sure we're going to hit one of those medical reasons to stop pretty quickly. But if she's on plan, she's not eating. So she doesn't have to make a good choice. She doesn't have to measure out her portion. She doesn't have to say, no, I won't have that on the side. But the fact that she can't do that shows you what a mental struggle it is. And again, the mental is the part she isn't addressing. She says, I'll still have some time to worry about this trip. And the key word there, and the very telling word there, was worry. And then she changes it to organize this trip. Whatever trip it is they've booked, like, she did it kind of like how when she sold her car, she did it as a way to force herself. Well, she did it because she needs a visa change, but she's presented it and put a timeline to it as a way to force herself to keep to these diets. And I say diets because she's been pinging back and forth. But booking the trip isn't going to force her to do the work. It's just going to ensure that it triggers every problematic behavior she has, as we have seen her do whenever food has been denied before, or even when the suggestion of food being denied has come up. because she does see it as denial. She doesn't see it as, well, this is better for you, this is going to help you, this is going to stop this illness that is bothering you from happening. She just sees it as, you can't have this, and she's never done well with the word can't. So this whole video and the whole mindset behind it is just panic at work. That is the motivation of this video. It is panic, and panic will not drive her through 40 days of water fasting. And if it could, it would have already. It would have the previous time she tried it. It would have with whatever other crazy diet she did. It would have when she bought the juices and the almond milk. It would have with the high vibrational food. It would have with the veganism. And at least then she was getting enough food and could be full if she wanted to. It's not what she wants. And I think just like before, it's going to end up failing. So that's where we are right now. The only thing I'll be interested really in seeing is how quickly this turns, to be honest, because will she pretend for a few days, or will she just wake up tomorrow and be like, hey dudes, I failed? Those are the only real two options here. Oh, actually no. Potential third, having a rage because people don't believe her, even though she started the video by saying, I know people won't believe me, and people in real life I talk to also don't believe that it will work, and then quitting the internet for a while. But that would mean a loss of revenue, so we'll see. All right, guys, thank you very much for listening. What do you think of everything? And I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.